wanted to do was I just wanted to feed my habit, and that's what I did. And so I ignored everything else. So when I finally found out that I was HIV positive, I said, "Well, I'm going to end my life." And um, I just overdosed on drugs, and they kept me in the hospital. And that's when I met a nurse, and it was a registered nurse, but she wasn't doing uh, uh, she was involved with a new study for newly diagnosed. And honestly, she saved my life. Um, he said, "You don't have to get into treatment right now, but we care about you." And they said that they're coming out with new drugs are being developed, and did I want to join a research study and how I could benefit being part of research study. And so gradually, after about 9 months of trying to get me in the study, I finally gave in, and that's how um, I, I am who the person I am today because of research studies and people that cared about um, those with a variety of issues, and I had them all: addiction, mental health, denial, uh, going through uh, understanding my true identity of myself because I didn't know about being gay, bisexual. I just knew about just being Jeff. And I still live my life today. Just call me by my name. I'm just part of the process of, of living and thriving while living. And so I hope that helps that people to understand about stigma. It's out here. Um, we have advocates that are working to change language, people-friendly language. Stigma attached to anything is not friendly, and we should be all working together for the common good for humanity.
Dr. Gripshover, same question. How do you think stigma affected your practice?
How did it affect my practice? Um, they my love for the underdog, as I had mentioned earlier, may have been part of what drew me into this field, so to try to help people that feel some marginalized in some different ways. But so in that regard, it might have drawn me to this. But I at the same time I tell people now, I think that the way that HIV can kill people in 2025 is from stigma. I think we have great medicine, and people who are linked and are in care will live and thrive. But I think one of the biggest barriers to engaging people in care is stigma. Some people either they don't want to come, they're trying to just forget the whole thing. We still have people who want to sneak in the back door. We try to help people, but as best they meet people where they are. But I think stigma is, and then the depression and the feelings that come with it can drive people out of care. And honestly, I think that's the way that HIV kills people anymore, because we have really great treatment otherwise. So it's short and sweet, but that's how I think.
Francesca, what do you think about stigma and how it has affected your journey with HIV?
This is what I will say. Stigma is so present in everyday life for all of us, whether you work in the field or whether you live with. I'm sure Dr. Gripshover has received death threats, as have my practitioners who care for me as a trans woman. My practitioner has had death threats because she provides hormonal care to trans women and trans men. And the stigma is still alive and well. Think about it. We still have our marketing campaign promote stigma. This is a gay man's disease. it does not show heterosexual couples when you walk in. The marketing campaign shows the same gender loving men hugging, embracing, kissing, or very rarely is it showing a trans person in a loving situation is a or heterosexual couples. It is still very, very much stigmatized because of it. Um, I will say as a trans woman, not it's because I'm perceived as a gay man wearing a dress still instead of a man who transitioned to a woman and is now a transsexual. But and to the women in the room, I will say this: I will never know what it's like to have a cramp, to have a period. I've had similar situations, I'm told, but I don't take it for granted. So when I say I'm a woman of trans experience, that's what I mean. I don't take any of saying the word woman lightly. But there is stigma from from the cisgender women thinking I'm coming to invade their territory or assault them in the bathroom. And all I want to do, I will tell you personally, I'll just be very, very transparent. Whenever I go somewhere publicly, I'm probably wearing depends because I don't want to go to a bathroom because I fear a woman or man assaulting me before I walk in or out of a bathroom. So I will tell you that stigma is very much alive and well. Our laws promote it. I'm also a part of the Ohio Health Modernization Movement, where in which we are working to decriminalize the laws about HIV because we have 6 laws on the books in Ohio. But when you test positive, the way someone is told they are positive is usually by someone who is negative, and that is a disservice because if you're not providing someone to tell someone that they're positive by someone who is positive and then having a connection because a positive person can be ensuring and stay there and be like, okay, you were just told that you're HIV positive. What did you hear? Because when you tell someone, hey, you just tested HIV positive, you're thinking all those things from 1981, 1984 that your grandparents heard. Because your grandparents and your great grandparents are now my age and they're carrying on what they knew from the 1980s if they've not updated in their education. Especially if you're living in a rural area. Think about it. Rural area, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it every day and we don't push for the marketing to be changed. We dating apps, if you say that you're HIV positive or you're trans on the apps, you're thrown off of the apps because it's a communicable disease and they don't want you spreading it. I've gotten notices from places like that, but it's very scary. And I will say this as someone who advocates, I used to give out my phone number and my address freely. I can't do that anymore. I just say if you want to find me, here is my email, and I usually give them an AOL email that I've kept from way back when that I may or may not read, but I have to protect myself even greater being someone who is in the spotlight, who's known to be living with HIV. I just received another death threat a month ago. So yes, so these things are real and they're evident and stigma's alive and well and our current administration promotes it. Our current political climate has allowed it to show its face and give it a smile as
Thank you,
we try to fight it.
Francesca. Thank you for that. I don't know if Jeff or Talib were able to answer the question about stigma. Do you think it's alive and well? Do you think it's changed?
Well, I think it's alive and well. I tend to agree with Francesca. Her experiences are real because I know that she speaks real language. Um, um, I know stigma is alive and well, not just with HIV, but in a lot of other aspects of anybody's life. Um, I'm an independent thinker, so I don't declare any one party over another. I base on what my relationship is with each individual that uh, our paths may cross. So that's I'm trying to keep it simple. Stigma is alive and well, just not only in HIV, but in a lot of different aspects of everybody's individual life.
Thank you. Talib, before we move on, do you have a response to that? Stigma, alive and well?
Uh, I do think it's alive and well. It's um, as Francesca was saying earlier, it's described, in a negative term to make people feel ashamed, feel unworthy, and so the people who are impacted by the stigma are the people who have this disease. And they're afraid to say they have it, and for fear, because I can remember back in the day when I disclosed to people, and if I was at their house, they had styrofoam cups, styrofoam plates. If they let me in their house, or they wouldn't sit next to me, those kind of things are still true today. And the stigma of the illness, like Dr. Grusho mentioned, keeps people from seeking help. It's not like it was when I got diagnosed. The prognosis is a lot infinitely better than it was, almost 40 or 38 years ago. And people still think of it. I still have friends who haven't, back then they wouldn't even tell their loved ones, their family, their kids, and it's still true today that people don't want to disclose or don't want to know. I know people when I was locked up, they didn't want to know if they had it, right? And some people get tested and don't want to know. So I think the stigma is alive and well, and I don't know that we advocate enough the advances in medicine and treatment that this is not a death sentence, it's a chronic illness. And so I think there's a lot more work to be done. Thanks.
Thank you. So I have a question because I know that we do a lot. Oh, Dr. Ripshover, I'm sorry. Someone asked in the chat about do you, when people first come to your office, whether they're newly diagnosed or they come from another city, so that means they've had HIV, but they're new to your practice. What triage do you do? Do you do something with mental health where you assess their mental health, or do you allow them to say, yes, I've been diagnosed with a mental health? How does it work when in terms of looking at a person living with HIV, their mental health?
Well, yeah, certainly we screen, and actually that's really part of, all good medical care should be screening for mental health. That is part of health, right? So, but because we know their mental health problems are more prevalent, we definitely always screen for depression with a routine screen. The person in the chat asked for like a routine internal stigma screen. We don't actually have a question. We have people actually do a questionnaire of a measure for the depression. We don't have that for stigma, but I do try to, as I put in the chat, I always ask people who they've told, because that can say a lot if they don't feel like they can tell anyone. And then you want to probe more about, and if they've told lots of people and they have good support, that they're in a better place, at least in terms of having support and around. So that is usually how I often will lead into that, trying to dive further into how they're feeling yeah, about having the HIV, I guess. Yeah, they're new. So, but it might be a good idea to do it at an internal, I mean, actually a standard screen. I don't know, but we have to, and yeah, we have a lot of resources where we, to try to help people and to engage people in care. So we have support groups, we have a yoga group, we have different things, you know, we have peer mentors, we have a great patient advisory committee. Tilly was smiling, he's doing all of those. But we have we do try to do our best to help build community, right? So to address it, which I think is a bigger issue as people are aging with HIV. So a lot of their friends might have died when they were younger, you know, it's important that to build community. So to try to help address it but we don't have a standard questionnaire, like it sounded sort of like the person was asking, but
Thank you.
yeah.
So, I guess I have a question for anybody, including you, Dr. Gripshover. What do you think the difference is between people who accept their diagnosis and people who are unable to accept the fact that they're living with HIV? Do you think that it affects their care for people living with? How has that journey been for you? In terms of acceptance or non-acceptance, how long did it take you? And we'll start with Jeff with that question.
Well, I, I,
Is
I
it
don't know.
loaded? Is that a loaded question?
Yeah, it is loaded, Naima.
Well, you know
I,
that's me.
yeah, I know. I'm not going to pull the trigger either. So because I don't work in in an entity that might uh, do the work of HIV, so I really can't speak on does anyone really accept their diagnosis when they find out that they're diabetic? I don't know. I'm not diabetic, but I have a partner that's diabetic that has a very challenging, to eat the right kinds of food because they are diabetic. So I'm dealing with HIV. I don't know anyone
Yeah,
that
but diabetics don't have stigma though. So
yeah,
keep that
well,
in
they
mind.
do. They have the self stigma. Okay,
Okay.
stigma of self is alive and well. I think any anyone that accepts the I have a back that's very bad, and I have a very hard time getting doctors to believe that I have a back that really has an issue until they see the X-rays and say, oh, this guy's got an S back, and it's deteriorating at this part of the S and that part of the S. Well, they need surgery. I'm dealing with an insurance company that's denied the surgery. So, there's a medical stigma going on with that. So we have stigma all over the place and all in all aspects of our lives, self and sometimes by other entities. So I just don't know about what we can do to end stigma. Is um, people being more honest and letting down their other people need to let down their protective barriers that they want to assume. Well, my daughter will never get pregnant, and my daughter ends up being pregnant. So I just don't know how we change uh, humanity in how they perceive other entities of humanity. I just don't know where we are on that. So
Francesca. Oh,
I don't
sorry,
know if
I'm
that
sorry.
helps. I don't know if that helps the conversation along, but that's
I
just
think
my
it
perspective.
does. Oh, and that's what we're looking for. Francesca, you're up.
Okay, so it's my turn. Um, for me, I thought I knew about HIV and what I needed to know because I was raising funds and everything, but then I really learned about it viewing it from the outside, but then when HIV comes home and takes up residence within you, And one of the greatest things I ever heard someone tell me, and it was the greatest lesson I pass along to everybody else. You just have to say, okay, I can't give it an eviction notice. I have to realize, am I gonna let it be loud or keep it quiet and still? If I keep it silent, I'll be on my meds. I'll take my meds, and then when I learned what the laws were and everything, I learned, oh my gosh, HIV is home. And I thought I knew HIV. I thought I knew the ramifications of living with it. But then whenever it takes up residence within you, oh my goodness, there is a whole lot more to learn. And yes, so I will just say there was a whole lot more of a learning process. And I also think when someone says, "Oh, well, this is what I heard because Dr. Google or Dr. Facebook, Dr. Instagram, Dr. X, Dr. whatever, or God forbid someone would say Dr. Oz says this or Dr. Kennedy says this," who don't have a license, or the Ohio representatives practicing medicine without a license. I'll just go there and say it because they are practicing medicine without a license. Um, yeah, they provide stigma, and it's up to us when we hear it. We have to stop it and say, "Hey, where'd you get your facts from? What are your facts?" And sometimes I'll just stand there and I'll let them talk, and then I'll be like, "Oh, so you don't know that I'm trans. You're talking about trans people. You've never been around trans people." I'm like, and you encounter trans people every single day, and you encounter someone who lives with HIV every single day. And I will say, back in 1985, whenever I was doing my work in drag, they said then by the year 2010, everyone would know someone or will be affected, or will come into contact with someone who was living with HIV, whether they told them or not. So I just push the button and say, well, you don't know if the person in front of you who bought groceries, if they're living with HIV, you don't know if they're trans. You don't know. You don't know that person's story. I'm like, you don't know who is in front of you or who's coming behind you, but I do. I just heard something recently, and we have something in humanity. We have to. We come in and we are sent to leave it better than we found this place, and it's our job, if we're going to leave it better, is to challenge what someone knows, and what their understanding is, and to break it down in the KISS method. Keep it simply stupid, and challenge their way of thinking, and make them think as though they're a 3 or 5 year old, because the greatest way to 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 challenge stigma is just say, what watch the kids, watch the children run up to every to to themselves, and they don't see black, they don't see red, they don't see white, they don't see brown. They just see, hey, that's my friend, that's my so and so, and they're ready with a loving embrace. And that's how we as adults need to be, and come back to being children, and ready to love.
Well, you have given us a mouthful, Francesca. I'd like to move on to Talib or Dr. Gripchover, um, to answer the question as well, if you choose to. You could also pass if you want.
What was the question again?
I knew you was gonna say that.
I was too. So thank you,
Oh
Talib.
my God. Thanks a lot. So mm, honestly, I can't remember the original question, but uh, mm, mm. Do you think that oh, stigma, does it help or hinder a person, or have I already asked that question?
I don't know. For me, stigma weighed heavily on me early on in the diagnosis, just because uh, of my homophobia and what people thought about me. And over the years, um, I've come to the realization that I have this illness, and it's actually nobody's business. Right? I know I have it. All the people in my life that are important to me that I know that I have this illness. When I meet somebody new, um, if a friendship develops, whatever kind it is, then I might disclose. I remember, I don't know, 20 years ago, I was at a dance and a song came on, right? And there was this lady across the room that I kind of liked, and I wanted to ask her for a dance, right? But I was trying to think, how could I tell her, right? And the music kept playing, and I'm thinking, how do I tell her? And and I sat there and I was trying to, in my head, trying to figure out how do I tell her. And then the song ended, and I didn't dance with the young lady.
Mm,
And then it occurred to me, all it was a dance. Right? I wasn't getting ready to sleep with her. I wasn't getting ready to go to bed with her. So I don't do that. I understand what the law is, and as bad as I think the law is, it's having been incarcerated, I don't want to go back. And so those people that are important to me, I don't get into discussions or debates with somebody who is in denial about anything because it's not that important to me. They're not that important to me. If they want to have a discussion, if we're having an honest conversation, even if they don't accept the truth, I know it, and I'm okay with that. If they feel like that until they die, they can take it to their grave. I'm not mad at them. I'm not trying to convince anybody that I'm worthy of this space that I have on this earth. I'm just not. But those people who are open-minded, and because I used to be closed-minded, I didn't have any gay friends, right? Because I was homophobic. My life is full now. I have, you name it, friends, because I got to a point in my life that I met people who were genuine and that didn't have an ulterior motive, that just wanted to share friendship, whatever we had in common was what life brought to me. So, and it could be anybody. It could be somebody, I have a certain belief system and somebody could believe something different. But we have some common issues that we can join and we can share in. And that's how I live today. And having these people in my life allowed me to see the worth of people who were different from me, whether it was religious, whether it was ethnic or sexual preference, doesn't define who a person is inside as a human being. So that's all I got.
so Dr. Ripshover, I want to ask you a little differently because I know, because I work in the field and I also live with HIV, but most people don't know that. They know that I work in the field. And so, but when you go to dinner parties or when you start going to family gatherings, what kind of stigma, if any, do you face saying that you treat people living with HIV?
Um, well, maybe I'm lucky to have been to be surrounded by people that are open-minded. I haven't really I feel like I've educated people, about it, but I've been lucky enough most of my friends and family are open to education and being open-minded about it. So I haven't I they might wonder later, like, well, why'd you pick to do that? But but no one's ever made me think that, like, why would you not want to do that? And in turn, when you were asking I think in general, as I already mentioned, that stigma can mostly keep people out of care. But I have to say, on occasion, I've seen it go the other way. I can think of one patient who was like, actually there's several that always take their HIV medicine. They're always undetectable, but their diabetes is out of control, or their high blood pressure is out of control, or whatever their other issues. And part of why they're always taking their HIV is because they don't want anyone to know. And somehow it's okay to have diabetes, but it wasn't okay to have HIV. And so, and that's why I say I'm a better HIV doctor than a diabetes doctor, honestly. But it's also easier because you could just take a pill. You don't have to change your diet. but it can work both ways. But certainly in general, I think it is much more, much more of a barrier to people being in care and actually to living a full life. And I'll just echo that with Talib. I think probably what Stormy and I've met, my life is so much richer having met so many people from worlds I might never have known if I hadn't done this. So I'm eternally grateful for that as well.
Thank you for that. So I do want to ask other people questions, but I think that we have not dived into people getting older. In a way we have, but I know that now people are living longer, so they have to go into working with people who are uh, dealing with people in geriatrics or people that are actually older. So do you think anybody, I only want a couple of people to answer so that we could give people an opportunity to ask questions. So I will pick Talib and I will pick Jeff to answer the question of um, what experience have you had of dealing with someone who deals with people on a regular basis who are growing older, but not necessarily people living with HIV?
I just, going older, all sorts of things start to happen. And I think for me, and a lot of my friends are my age in their 70s and are close to it, is getting medical care. I mean, for the things that bother them. It's like, I wouldn't have known I had hepatitis C if I didn't have HIV, right? I wouldn't have. And I have high blood pressure. I take medicine for that, cholesterol medicine. And when at least in our culture, people don't go to their doctor. They don't have family practitioners, and HIV it's been more of a blessing than a curse for me, is because I was forced to seek medical care. And I think as a person who gets older, we given habits, we eat bad, and because we don't have any illness or anything, and it's not until that illness becomes debilitating that I have to actually be forced to see a doctor that happens for most of the people that I know. Smoke cigarettes and all kinds of crazy things, but having this illness pushed me in a direction that I otherwise would not have made it, and I probably wouldn't have lived as long as I have to this point and feel as well as I do because of the medical care that I've gotten that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten had I not had it.
Okay, Jeff, if you could be brief, because we have a short time left, and I do want to ask people if they have questions.
Sure. So since your question dealt with older adults, we happen to live in a county that has a very high percentage of older adults. And trying to get a medical appointment in a reasonable amount of time has become a great deal of challenge. And so they say it's better to stay in care than to be out of care. But I think what regions need to work on is building a better medical system with we have challenges with funding, not just for HIV, but we have challenges in funding for almost every component of someone's health. So we have a great bit of humanity challenges to deal with now and in the future.
Thank you for that. So I will now give an opportunity for people that would like to share, or if they have a question for one of the presenters, to now ask that question. But I would ask that you raise your hand so that I can try to keep order, because I'm doing this by myself. So anyone that at this time that has a question, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you. Oh. What happened to somebody who had a question and had their hand up? Did they not have that question anymore?
I don't know,
Mm.
but I will throw this in there, Naima. As we age, we think about relocating to places like Florida, etc. And I will warn you, I just came back from Florida. It's very hard to get connected with care there. And so you're better off staying up in the northern area. And Ohio is one of the best places for HIV resources, period. In the country, Ohio has some of the best and most resources. It is beating California, I'll tell you that.
Okay, thank you. Dora, I hope I said your name right. You have your hand up. If you could come off mute, we'd appreciate your response.
Um, Hi.
Oh, I'm
Mm.
sorry. I'm
Can
bad
you
with
hear
names.
me?
So yeah.
Yes,
What
it's
question did you have, sir?
so I'm Dorian Besson and I am from Cape Town in South Africa, and I facilitate the monthly I facilitate the probably the only monthly, probably the only HIV support group in the Western Cape at the moment. And a lot of our members are over 50, and I just myself turned 40. I on the 5th of December I would be living with HIV for 20 years. And so how do you navigate becoming older in a society whose mindset still thinks of HIV as a gay disease, first of all, and then as in Cape Town they call it, unclean illness of some sorts. How do you navigate growing older and deal with the ignorance of society while still trying to keep your sanity, I suppose?
Would you like the doctor to answer that question, or anyone can answer it?
Well, really anyone.
Okay, how about we let Jeff answer that question?
Well, it starts with oneself, and it's oneself willing to reach out to another individual, one person at a time.
I agree. I agree. Talib, did you have a response to the question of the attendee?
Dorian, thanks for the work that you're doing. For me, it's when I came to that realization that it didn't matter what other people thought about me. And so I could live my life. And those people who are important to me, who come to know me, it doesn't matter that I have AIDS, right? When they know me as a person, right? And it's somebody I just happen to meet on the street and have a conversation with them. I don't tell the bus driver or the taxi driver I have AIDS, right? Or the waitress or waiter at a restaurant, because it's none of their business. It's not necessary. And then they don't get to know me. But when people get to know me, then those things I feel comfortable divulging because they know me as a person, not as a disease, or not as a gay man or a straight man or whatever, a transgender. Once a person gets to know the human person, then that all the other stuff becomes secondary. It's not the primary.
Thank you for that, Talib. So I am so excited that we have had such a rich conversation. I think that this conversation is only the beginning because I believe that we live in silos. And so we're going to have to take the silo of people who get, everyone who gets older, and then work with people who have patients who are HIV positive. We're going to have to marry the two because in a certain amount of time, there's going to be more people that are over the age of 50 living with HIV than not. And then we haven't even talked about dandelions, people who were born with HIV. So unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time. I thank everyone who attended. I also thank the panelists, Dr. Gripshover, Jeff, Francesca, um, and Talib, for your thoughtful acknowledgement of how you navigate this world of HIV. I'm hoping that we will continue to have this conversation. And I am excited that we were honored through We Think for a Change to be able to do this webinar again, because this is our fourth webinar during the Stigma conference that is held by Howard University. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending. I hope you got something out of it. I am hoping that we can continue in our own states having this conversation. Again, we're going to thank the Stigma Conference for allowing us to present what it seems like a yearly tea event. So thank you all again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. I hope this session was good for you. And I am thanking people who attended, but I'm also um, grateful that this was such a wonderful session. So thank you.